All right, everybody. We're going to do something a little bit different this time.
To be honest, I feel like if we look at our YouTube channel like a house, I'm still not confident about inviting guests around.
We're not doing a very good job of marketing the podcast. We just kind of let it go up and post random clips from the pod.
Quality actually does kind of beat quantity when it comes to content because everyone's posting content. If you're putting out a lot of shit content, people are just going to associate you with shit content.
At the end of the podcast, we're going to create a custom GPT live on screen with everything we've talked about. All right, everybody. We're going to do something a little bit different this time. So, if you've been watching, which I'm guessing you haven't because we have like 2 or 3 views on YouTube, but that's what the point of this episode is about. We're essentially just going to brainstorm. Okay, I exaggerating a little bit. I know that there's listeners on like Apple Music or Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but not a whole bunch. And that's all right. We just started not too long ago, and we're not pushing this very heavily, which, we could do with our audiences. But even so, we kind of want to create more of an organic, audience with this podcast. People, word of mouth, finding us more naturally. So with that being said, today's episode is all about brainstorming how we're going to grow this pod. Just so you guys can see, it's part of the content creation, personal brand of being an entrepreneur. Probably have some marketing insights, and I'm sure Tats will have some wild ideas.
Yeah. Also, it's a chance for, well, I guess in a way, it's sort of building in public, right? Like,
Right.
neither of us have successfully built a podcast. We have some idea when it comes to general audience building and brand, but beyond that, have never really done much. And
And
it's
I got
interesting.
ChatGPT in front of me, so we can
Help
we
us
can
out.
crack on with this.
About some ideas because I think obviously the funny thing is we're not really pushing it, I feel like, at all with our brands at the moment. I haven't been, and that's partly because I was like, I want this pod to just be in a place where I'm pretty happy with it as a whole. And I would say I'm getting pretty close to that point. Like, I obviously we can continuously improve, but I can also continuously improve outside of this pod as a person. And so I feel like for the level of person I am right now, like the level of finesse my Twitter brand is, the level of finesse everything else is, I would say the pod now is getting to a point where I'm like, yeah, it's actually like we're just shooting the shit, right? The editing's getting it's a bit cleaner now. There's no crazy production quality or anything like that. I feel like our thumbnails.
Except today, sorry, Tats. If you've noticed, my camera is a little bit better because I use my iPhone's continuity camera. And I've been talking to a lot of people about this, and they're like just using it instead of buying a real camera, because depending on what iPhone you have and MacBook, obviously those you need to have those two things. But it's a pretty nice camera.
It is. And to be honest, I should probably set this up for next time. In fact, I will actually put this on my list. So I guess this is sort of step one, right? Before you think about marketing the product, how do you make sure the product is good enough to market for in the first place, right?
Right.
And so I guess one part is the content. The other part is the production quality, right? And to be fair, right now, our production quality is pretty basic. It's kind of like the thing of if you could choose to watch a podcast, which is super high production quality, amazing camera quality,
like Chris Williamson, Modern
audio,
Wisdom,
you would probably pick that. It's like if you're creating a film today and you make that film with your iPhone, there are some films where people have done that now and people have watched them and they're sort of a bit indie, a bit edgy, and they do well. But as a rule of thumb, if the film you're watching is a bit grainy or the audio quality is a bit shit, people are gonna be like, man, what the hell? I don't know. I feel like you get put off a little bit by it, don't you?
Definitely, especially with newer audiences. I think with a small, obviously we don't have a audience for this podcast quite yet. Then I think when people initially watch it, if the audio isn't amazingly crisp and it feels like a real professional podcast, they're just gonna be like, "What is this?"
Yeah, there are times.
So there's something to that.
It's when you put your earphones in as well. I put my earphones in, and when it's a good podcast, I'm like, oh, it just sounds crisp and high quality. Whereas like when you put your earphones in and it kind of sounds like you're just talking to a friend, like that can be all right. But yeah, it's not as immersive. And it's kind of like why you'd get a sound bar right for your TV. It's like it's not quite as good when it's just the flat screen TV. So I guess
Hmm.
that's one thing. You've got a mic, I know. I don't have a mic. I should probably get a mic. And the other
I
thing,
could
because
definitely
also
get
like
a better mic.
yeah, like I plan to be doing stuff like this realistically for I don't know
Right. It's
till
going to be
I
an investment
retire
no
into
matter
the
what you
mountain.
do. Loom
Yeah,
recordings, meetings, YouTube videos, this,
anything,
other ones you go
a lot of
on.
stuff. So it's probably worth it to be honest, just to have some sort of high quality portable mic. And
Hmm.
I guess for the camera, like yours looks a lot better now with this. Like, I guess it's probably not worth getting a camera yet. If anything, maybe just get a better phone. Like I think I've got the 12 mini at the moment.
Hmm.
I
I
could
think I
probably
have the
get a better one of those.
13. So, like, I think the 16s are coming out. I don't know. I've been thinking about upgrading my Mac as well, but I can't see. I don't. I just like. There's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? It's just like I kind of want one, but I might take that energy
What
into a
chip
new
have you got?
phone because I
What
got the
chip is your Mac?
M2 MacBook Air.
Yeah, well, I've got the M2 MacBook Pro.
Uh,
It's annoying because like when that comes out, everyone's like, "Oh my god, the processing quality is so fast, you'll never need anything faster." And then they come
But
out with the
like this
next
one
chip,
is
and you're like,
great. I never nothing is ever like slow. Like I can edit videos on this. Like it, I can't like everything is still fast. Like I can't find a reason. The battery life is still great. Like I can't find a reason to upgrade. So I might just take that into a new phone because that will help with the camera quality like
yeah.
immensely.
Also, to be honest, my battery's getting really shit as well, so
Me
that would
too.
just save
Me
me
too.
time, which is just not fun, really.
No.
Okay, that's step one. What about the
Okay.
content? If we were to look at the content of our podcast critically and think of all the reasons why it's crap,
Hmm.
what do you reckon those are? I can go
I
first if you want.
think you go first. I want to think about this.
So, I think one disadvantage is I think with podcasts these days, because there's so many available now to tune into, and people don't generally switch up too much. I think if once again come back to production quality, if production quality is a little bit low, it can push someone off. But I also think then because you can choose whoever, I think a lot of times people will either choose to go with someone just because it's entertaining, or they will go because of the frame. Like at the moment,
Hmm.
I love listening to Sean Puri and Sam Parr because I know they've built like massive businesses to many millions, and are like pretty smart guys, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if they hadn't done that, I'd probably be less inclined to listen to them. Like to be fair, if I knew there was a podcast of someone who'd literally just done what I had, just quit the 9 to 5, that actually would be quite interesting. I probably would lean into that just to hear how they've done it. But the tricky thing is, those people get known slower. Like we get known slower than if we have 10 figures. So like I actually don't know anyone who's doing like a similar thing to me and is also running a podcast to be fair. Because I feel like most people our like size, they just go for interviews. Like I know people like us who are interviewing other people for their pod, but I actually don't really know anyone else at the same stage as us interviewing. Sorry, just chatting shit like we are on a pod.
I think it has a degree more of complexity to it. Like if it's just us two, we're not, banking on whoever we're interviewing to provide the content. We are, which I think when we do interview people later, because I think that's something you and I want to do, it will just help our conversational nature, like us talking, learning how to communicate better, especially with being on pods like this, like learning when you're going to stop talking versus I, so we're not like cutting each other off all the time, although sometimes it's kind of funny. But as far as like the content, you're right. Like we don't have the big frame of 10 figures doing, these businesses where people immediately want to tune in. But I think there's some um, interesting things we can do when it comes to like creating content. Like, for example, I just asked my AI, our Life of Leverage assistant GPT, to come up with ideas for how to scale, like strategically and thoughtfully. And one of them was niching down further with a mini series. which is an interesting concept because we're not going away from our brand. We're just focusing on one area for a little bit to, and then going back to our general what we talk about. Interesting idea considering we don't have that frame. So if we talk about something specific and more technical that we are experienced in, it could be really like kind of like the cold DM masterclass we did, but like on a larger scale of like outreach and marketing for personal brands. That mini series that could be something we have credibility in, even despite not having the largest frame, as well as taking the easy way out and doing interviews with bigger creators. We leverage their audiences, which is, what most people do, that they just have a podcast. But honestly, most people who have a podcast and do interviews don't do it like the My First Million style where it's us two and them. It's normally just one on one. And I think when you have this sort of setting, especially with you and I, it's much more entertaining, kind of like how Sean and Sam are with it's more of a it's I don't know. You've done interviews, and so have I. And when it's just one on one, it's a little bit different. The context and feeling of that podcast is different. Where if it's like a more of a group setting, like us two and them, it's more of like we're hanging out in a sense, and that can create a lot of really fun dialogue and information. Mm-hmm. That's hilarious. What a reference, dude. That was great. Fit that in so slyly. Right up in election time too. Like that's perfect. That was sly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You just be descriptive while you're talking, and yeah, I see what you mean. That's a great idea for sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mentored by like one of the best direct response marketers in the world. And that's a frame that on everyone else is that I can then like I had a call with him just before I hopped on here, and he gave me some really insightful advice. So that's probably another thing to lean into, and even just conversations that I think we get to have. Like yesterday, I was on call with a paid ads guy for a Fortune 100 company. They are like a small team, and they manage like over 100 million in ad spend a year. Like if they're running a small test with ads, that's 5 grand a day just thrown at it. Like, oh, we'll just see if this works, sort of thing. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's once again like not conversations that most people. So I guess that's. But then the counter argument is, well, if you're Shampuri, you're having the same conversation with people even larger, right? So I think then we need to lean once again more into the frame of we're literally just in our 20s, and like it's not like we've built some unicorn tech company where we're like got a load of funding. We're like I'm insanely good at programming, and so it's unrelatable. It's like we're literally like just two fairly normal dudes who like
I'm no
building shit.
code for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to. Biggest thing I can do is write Notion formulas, and I am learning that actively. No, like that's what's so funny about it. Like people who are good at Notion and they do consulting with companies. Like, yes, there is an edge to having formulas, but like most people don't care. I've signed my first, I don't know, 5 clients without ever writing formulas. So that just goes to show, and like, and I guess it's a little bit of a side tangent, but like, you don't need to be raising a unicorn tech startup with millions of dollars in funding. You just have to be good at what you do.
Yeah. Counter then. So that's obviously things we could do to improve. What are we actually not doing that well with content and what we're talking about? Because we can't, we're obviously only, I don't know how many episodes we're in now, maybe 10 or something. Like, we're obviously nowhere near, like, I was just listening to a podcast today and they were like just episode 77 and they were still fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're obviously still not that good. So what do you think we could be doing better or that we're not that good at and could amp up a bit?
I want to say something along the lines of, I mean, promotion. We're not doing a very good job of marketing the podcast. We just kind of like let it go up and post random clips from the pod.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of,
We'll be covering that. We'll be covering that. That's the next
yeah.
section, right? Because this is all product, and
Mm-hmm.
then we'll cover like all the marketing ideas. But in terms of just pure product, like what we talk about or how we talk about things,
Mm-hmm.
what are we not doing well?
I think, in some sense, in terms of structure, like, and that's where miniseries could be good because we come to the table with like, here's 7 ideas on X, you know, that's a little bit more structured. And from the title, you know exactly what you're getting. But yeah, I mean, I like keeping it loose too. I don't want to be super rigid in formatting episodes. But yeah, that's probably one part of it for sure. Like we don't have like a standard intro where we're gonna just chat for 5 minutes or whatever it might be. Um, that's probably the only thing I could really think of off the top of my head right now.
Mm, yeah, that's a good point. We don't have that much structure. Um, yeah,
Which
like
isn't
sometimes the
inherently
structure.
bad. It's just we're trying to gain a new audience, and it just might be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, there's no particular part in the podcast to like especially look forward to. I also don't feel like at the moment we're sort of just shooting the shit. Like we have a few little interesting facts that we bring along and guides, but we don't have like it's not like we bring 10 interesting talking points to the table and then go, what are the two most in or what is the one most interesting talking point out of those 10, and let's focus on that. It's sort of like, okay, here's 4 interesting points, why don't we just dive into these a little bit. Like, I remember speaking to a podcast producer when I was in Hungary, and so he will like take the guides and he will basically advise them on what maybe to talk about based on previous ones and like the order of what they're going to say it and like little things to bring in. Like he'll sort of be like, all right, we've been talking a bit about this. It might be getting a bit stale, a bit old. Let's shift it up and focus onto that. Like, I guess there's not really, it's fairly organic. There hasn't really been that much of that so far. So I guess we could just, if we were doing the mini series, we could make more of an effort to actually prepare for the content in that thing, just to, I guess, improve the quality a little bit rather than just like off the cuff shooting at the hip.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Sometimes off the cuff, shooting at the hip is fun, But I think in the context of a larger structure is where it will benefit the most.
Yeah. And I guess if we look at talk shows and radios, they will often get popular because they have certain sections which people will always come back to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, the Graham Norton show. I don't know if you know it. It's in the UK. At the
No.
end, someone comes in and tells a story, and if it's a funny, good story, they let them walk. If it's not, they pull the lever, and the person like falls behind and collapses on the floor. Or like
Mm-hmm.
in the at one section, they'll get a band on to do some singing, and then get it. Like there are basically sections, specific things in the pod, which you can
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and look forward to. And so, like, I know one thing we did last and we've been doing recently is like the goals. So that could be something we bring in. It's like every week at the end, we share our goals for accountability, and then we update people in the next one how they sort of go. Like that for example, could be a section. Or like it'd be like, what is the worst tweet or the most embarrassing thing you've seen, or like what is the biggest fail you've made in your business, basically. And every week we come and share like our one biggest failure. Like that's something we could do.
For sure. I think that yeah, just like it reminds me a lot of like even different podcasts that I've watched where they have like different segments that I was like, okay, like I'm in this part of the episode, it feels familiar, and you want to
Yeah,
create that space for people. And there's a lot of interesting things we could do. Like there's so many. We could I don't know, especially in the context of like doing an AI mini series with your strategies and your industry really, and then at the end of the podcast we're gonna create a custom GPT live on screen with everything we've talked about, and it will be a collaborative effort, and that would be something fun, at least from my skill set that I see something easy we could do that's not very difficult, and people just shows people like the process, even if they don't have a premium account, like the prompting process.
yeah, definitely. That could also be interesting because I'm more of the ChatGPT noob. I'm probably pretty
Right.
representative of the average person who's aware of it and
But you
using it.
are creative when it comes to like copywriting, and that's really helpful in prompting because the more
Yeah.
specific words you use and things like that changes the entire output.
So I could, given that, we could do a mini series, like an AI mini series, where every single week you, for example, teach something, and then I, for example, will share how I've implemented an extra AI thing into my workflow or whatever. And so that I'm going from noob to someone who uses a lot more, and then you're also teaching. Sort of like a cooking show when they have like someone who's a pro chef and then someone who's just like fucking shit.
And then we can flip the script on like I
Copywriting
would
or
love to
something.
see it.
Marketing.
Yeah, like yeah, your copywriting thought process and long and short form content, because that's something that I've done for a while, but I'm not as proficient. Obviously, that's not like my business at all. So yeah.
Yeah. And another mini series idea, breaking down businesses slash people that we've been lucky to talk with, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we do, like the fucking shit threads you see on Twitter now. Where it's like, this is Mark Zuckerberg. Here's 10 facts.
Mm-hmm.
But do that, but it's actually interesting. Like this one is about, say, David Deutsch, who's one of the best copywriters alive at the moment. I happened to interview him. So I could just do a series, an episode where I share everything about him, what it was like to interview him, things that I learned, lessons, blah, blah, blah. And then, for example, you could do you've just signed a client who's an ecom brand that has scaled is like I think dude's like what 20 years old and they're at like over
Yeah, they're
90K a
younger than
month
me,
within 9 months.
which is the
nine
first
months
time I've ever had a client that was younger than me.
Fucking crazy. So like we could do an episode just talking about that. Like how has he done that basically? What is the business sort of like? What are you doing to scale beyond that? Has it like realistically this has probably got the legs to be doing like ridiculous numbers if they've got to 90K a month in 9 months. And then how have they even done that at 20, right? Like what was the previous like we could do like a little mini series at breaking down interesting people in our lives, which I think would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person wants, then we could also get them on interviews later down the line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that we could interview, like past clients or current clients of mine that would, because there's also the thing of like, given that I have all of this information about their business, I put in confidentiality clauses in our contract where I don't talk about specific aspects of their business that are fundamentals to what they do. So I don't want to give that
Yeah.
information away. So I would definitely need to, you know,
Well,
obviously get permission certain things to talk about from these people.
to be fair, so the flip of that, right, is we could just interview them.
Right.
Would be the
Right.
easy thing, wouldn't it? And
Yeah.
and then if we're doing that, then that's when, well, so I guess that's a lot of the product. We could create mini series. We could actually start interviewing people now because there's a lot of interesting people that I think we'd enjoy interviewing.
Hmm.
Um, because those would make some cool videos.
There's, I mean, even like, just considering how we've grown on X and just, I don't know, I would like to say just being good people, just helping people out, wanting to be friends with people and learn more about them. Like, I know I'm never like, I mean, I have cold DMs going out for my assistant, but they're not pushy. I'm just trying to make friends with people. And from that, I know we both, gotten in touch with creators that are much larger than us in terms of following. And obviously, that's going to be a great way to cross leverage other people's audience to build one of our own.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably enough for product. Marketing. Well, for one, we can actually push this to our audience,
Hmm.
which I've not been doing at all yet because I've wanted it to get into a better place where I'm happy to push it to. Um, I honestly think the only thing when I go and look at our brand on YouTube that I'm like, man, I wish that was better. I think the only thing is the thumbnails.
Yeah, I think we need to have a consistent coloring scheme. So when
Yeah,
people see it, they immediately know it's our podcast every time.
yeah. Like, I think the thumbnails need to be improved. Our like main picture and just the banner, I think needs to be improved as well. Like, I look at this and I'm like, oh, it's a bunch of like kids trying to launch a podcast.
Right. How do we make that more professional?
Yeah. Then the other thing is our YouTube for shorts wise is absolutely nerfed.
I don't know
Don't know
what
why.
happened.
I think because we posted too many in a short amount of time that it's literally just nerfed us, and now our
You think
shorts are
so?
not being shown to anyone.
I mean, it's quite possible. I'll have to look into the settings because I was just watching some YouTube videos about like different settings that have a big influence on how YouTube pushes out your videos. So I'll see if there's anything to that. But I feel like that's going to be organically solved.
Yeah, well, I think we just got to put ourselves in the shoes of the algo. We've obviously spammed it just because we had our VA upload loads. It probably saw that some people weren't watching them because, to be fair, we didn't. We kind of were just like volume is the key here, kind of forgetting that obviously quality matters a lot. So there was probably a few of those shorts which were just pretty shit, which were then pushed, and then because no one saw them or because they were shit, then the algo then thinks, oh, these shorts are no good. I'm going to decrease how many people share this to, basically.
Hmm.
Um, so that's probably, yeah. I guess we could maybe even just delete those shorts, a lot of them, and just refresh it. Because ultimately, like, we want it's like a binge bank, isn't it? Which Shampoo says, like, we want someone to click on this and be like, oh, those, um, those podcasts are pretty interesting, but they're really long. I'm just going to go check out the shorts. And then because the shorts are like completely, they're just a bit of anything, people might watch one and be like, "Oh, this is a bit shit. I'm not going to bother with the pod, right?" Like, I
True.
guess we need to ultimately clean our home, and then with the shorts, create an actual better system where we're like, "Man, this short is epic. Let's post this." And so the only shorts that are then on our YouTube channel are ones where, like, if someone watches that short, they're going to be like, "Oh fuck, these guys are cool. I need to go watch a podcast, right?" Because it's like the
Hmm.
taster of cheese. What we've accidentally done by sharing all these shorts is we've put even the shit bits of cheese on the platter board for people to taste. And so, because there's so much cheese on the platter, people buying one and be like, "Oh, it's a bit shit. I'm not going to buy the main cheese," right?
True. It's a good point. I never thought of it in terms of cheese before, but it's really illuminated things for me.
Man, there's a lot you can learn from cheese tasting boards, honestly.
I'm from
Um,
Wisconsin. I know all about cheese. That's our thing here. You
so
probably wouldn't know that, would you?
I wouldn't know that. That means absolutely
Yeah.
nothing to me.
Our U.S. audience, the two
If you
of
said
you
you were
that are
French,
listening,
I would understand. But beyond that, nada.
I thought they were all about like baguettes.
They are, but they are also about cheese and wine. Cheese, wine, and baguettes and grapes. Okay, so that's one thing. Clear out the house on the shorts. Only leave our best ones. And I
Mhm.
guess what we should even do there is like you could even start off by saying we only release one short a week, but it's our best one. Like it's the short where we're like, man, this is fucking sick. This, if I watch this short, I would want because ultimately, like quality actually does kind of beat quantity when it comes to content because everyone's posting content. Like it's no longer a matter of just you just got to be doing it. It's like, if you're putting out a lot of shit content, people are just going to associate you with shit content. So it's not that great. Um, so going for quality over content with the shorts, probably deleting everything. Guests is obviously a big one of actually sharing that. To be honest, I feel like if we look at our YouTube channel like a house, I'm still not confident about inviting guests around. Like if I had a girl coming around, I wouldn't want to invite a girl around if that was my house. Do you get me?
Yeah. And I think that will come with updated branding as far as probably have to get headshots or something better. I mean, it doesn't have to be that extreme, but probably should be. And then updating the branding and then creating like consistent thumbnails and going back and changing the old ones to match the new branding. That would feel like a house I would want to invite somebody into.
Mm, yeah, I agreed. So I guess that's a task for by the time we record this next, right? Would be a goal to probably get that updated.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to our task list.
Sick. Um, okay, then obviously guess once that's happened, like we have pretty big email lists. Like mine is like 2,600. I don't know what yours is at now. But we could definitely, if every time we did a podcast, we actually pushed it to that, I'm sure that would then start growing it a lot more. Because also I'm growing my brand again, which will also bring in more people to the pod, obviously.
Yeah, I think my email list right now is at like 3,600.
That's fucking sick. Yeah.
But dude, you're gonna be so upset with me. I don't have, and I honestly, it's probably a good place to ask your advice on this. Um, I don't have capture links in my YouTube videos, so like everybody who gets the prompt library or the two new ones, one that's scheduled to be posted today, and then the one I did 2 weeks ago with the prompt journaling. I'm not capturing emails with those. It's just a straight up link to the prompt. So I've obviously decided this can no longer go on. So I've created, a simple, nice looking landing page with ConvertKit to just capture their email. Because I'm not, charging people for these free templates, so it's simple enough to use ConvertKit landing pages. But I was like, oh my goodness, how do I set these things up so that one, people are going to immediately get emailed for it. Great. But then now I need to put them into my welcome series, but I wanted it to be different than the welcome series I originally had for my Gumroad products. But I don't know. It just seems like it's a lot, but I think it'll be worth it. I just need to figure out how to do those automations and get everybody synced up like that.
Yeah, man, it's actually not complicated at all. You should just have different forms, and then depending on which form they join, you can just put them in a different sequence, in a different automation sequence, basically in ConvertKit.
I'm going to have
Which of a
like
man,
60 different sequences.
yeah, which of a man like you should be doable. The main thing is probably it's just faff to write, really. So you
I
might
don't
even
think
just
it's
want
that hard. I tried setting them up like when I just couldn't get the flow right and like how I wanted the sequences to be, but I ended up writing like 3 emails like as I was trying to set it up.
oh mad.
It
Oh,
doesn't
you should be able.
take that
You'll be fine
much.
then. You should be able to get that done
Yeah.
by the next time we talk.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get it done today. So
The other thing as well, though, our pod should probably just even be in the sequence, right? Like, the whole point of a sequence is to build trust. Podcasts are a great trust builder. Anyone who comes into our emails should realistically be sent to the podcast to boost trust even faster, right? And then also boost the pod. So that's probably another thing. Once the house is cleaned and we want to share it more, it would probably be to actually get what am I saying? Probably be to actually get it in the sequence. That's what I'm saying. And then we can start pushing it. To be honest, it's probably not even worth thinking too much beyond that. It's kind of like if your car doesn't have wheels on it, you probably shouldn't really be thinking about like, I don't know, how do I change the paint to make it go faster, right? It's like, well, mate, the first thing you
oh my
probably want to
God.
do is get some wheels on that car, and then you can start fine
And
tuning
then
it.
check yourself into a loony bin if you think paint is going to make the car go faster. Oh my gosh, dude.
Mate, everything matters when you're going 100 miles an hour. Um,
Except paint. Maybe I'll get proven wrong, but like, wow, I had to say something.
I maybe make too many analogies, so sometimes I'm grabbing up in
I'll make one. Grasping at straws.
I was indeed grasping at straws. But anyhow, we should probably set up that basics first, sort out the branding, actually start pushing it to the brands that we already have. Like, you have 3,600 people on your email list. I have 2,600. That is over 5,000 people already. How many subscribers do we have on this podcast? 7? Let
I
me
think
check
it's not
now.
9.
9. Shit, we're moving up. We have 9.
Yeah,
Like, the percentage wise of how
not
many
a good
people have subscribed to
percentage.
our newsletters versus our podcast on YouTube is like crazy difference. Like, we need to get some osmosis going on there and sort that out. And then we can probably
Did you
talk about,
just say
okay,
osmosis?
yeah, osmosis.
Whoa.
Sort that out. And then we can talk about the next steps. And I think we should then get some guests on as well, like people who also have brands. And that'll probably be a decent booster then.
Oh, for sure. That would be a great. Like anybody with a audience that goes where they go is. I mean, and we know those types of people, so I don't. Won't be too difficult, I don't think, to secure those interviews, and just because we want to talk to them, and I feel like I don't know, they like us, so if they do, maybe they'll want to come on an interview.
Yeah, man. To wrap up, I think we know what we've got to do. Let's review the goals from last week and then set some new ones, shall we?
Yes.
Righto. What did we say?
I mean, I know what I said. I don't know if you know what you said.
What did you say?
2 emails and a YouTube video about charts.
Did you do it?
I have 1
And
email
restart X
sent
content.
and oh yes, which I have been doing this week, as you
I
saw.
saw.
I'm getting back on that train. But and then the YouTube video and second email are scheduled to go out today. I was gonna post them yesterday, but I started going in the rabbit hole of like YouTube creator YouTube videos, and I was like, hold on, let me change a few things. You know what I mean?
Atta boy.
What
Okay,
were your
that's it.
goals,
Well
Tats?
done.
How did
My
they
goals:
progress?
launch a meta campaign and 2 new creatives. I have launched a meta campaign. The cost per acquisition is half of, well, over half of all the previous campaigns, which is sick. And I've made a load new creatives, and I've stretched out a few new extra ones. Long form posts. I've actually done my first massive long form post yesterday. Big one on the guy I spoke to about the paid ads from the Fortune 100 company.
The
So
illegal call that you had.
the illegal call, indeed. He wasn't legally allowed to talk to me about this stuff. So we've actually smashed it. What are the goals for next week? What are your goals for next week?
Obviously continue X content, probably at
Doesn't
least
count.
one more email, and I'm gonna be staying on the trend of doing a YouTube video a week. I think the biggest things that like in terms of like different goals than we had last week will be for me it
Well,
will be
YouTube
setting
video
up the
and
capture
content is good.
pages.
YouTube
What?
video and content is good, but I guess like how
Yeah.
much X content are we talking? And also, really, you got to be engaging realistically for X. So maybe we should even slap on like an
I mean,
outcome.
Kento's engaging for me.
Like, um,
But the biggest goal that I really want to hit home will be setting up the capture pages and flows for ConvertKit, so I'm
yeah.
collecting more emails.
So capture pages for YouTube lead magnets. One YouTube video. I feel like you can send more than one email, or is that because they've scheduled?
Um, I have the one scheduled for today. The reason maybe I will send more than one because I'm going to be updating like all the flows and sequences, so I'm already going to be writing quite a bit of emails in this
Okay,
next week.
yeah, that makes sense. So a
Yeah.
YouTube video.
And probably like while I do that, putting in a proper welcome sequence.
Yeah, plus welcome sequence. Okay. Do you want another one, or are you going to wrap it at that?
I'm gonna wrap it at that. That'll be a good amount. Plus on
Yeah.
the client work that I have.
Will you be posting every day on X?
Yes.
Okay, I'll
I'll be
have that
doing
as
it
a
every
goal as
day.
well. Every day on X.
And
Right.
the audience needs to know, or at least the two people and me need to know if there's a lower low.
Oh, okay. I have to say there actually was a low. Um, Let me just have a look. Right. So we did kind of make a lower low on August 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not what because the last I didn't want to break 5,000 and I got down to 3,200. However, that was the bottom and we've now reclaimed the low, and yesterday I went back up to 6,400. So today I just need to make sure that I once again stay above that 5,000. I'm on 3,200, so I'm going to have to push that up to 5,000. To be honest, it would be nice to break the 6,000. It's quite late in the day, so I don't have tons of time to post a load of content, but that'll be the goal. I've got something posted at the moment, which I posted ages ago, doing quite well, so I will just post more content today. Oh,
Amazing.
yeah. Okay, yeah. No, sorry,
Oh,
I already said. So, 3 goals. I would like to launch 2 new creatives on the meta campaign based off the advice that I got today from my mentor. That's probably the big one. My long forms, I would like to do another. I did 1 long form last time, so maybe this week I can do 2 long forms. That shouldn't be too stretched. 2 long forms. 2 new creatives, 2 new long forms. Honestly, I don't think there's anything else major. Do you know a cool habit I've recently started doing is, do you know you get a load, I don't know, maybe you don't, but I have a lot of like long YouTube videos, anywhere from like 30 minutes up to 2 hours, 5 hours that I want to watch.
mm-hmm.
But I obviously am not just going to sit there and watch them. So what I've started doing, because I also need to walk more because I'm always on my laptop, is just downloading the audio for the YouTube and then just sticking it into files on my phone, and then just going on long walks and listening to them basically. And so now I'm absolutely just smashing courses, to be honest. Like I'm literally just absorbing, and I feel like I'm in the Matrix. Like just 2 hour videos, stick them in, just go for a big walk, and just absorb everything. So I'd like to keep doing that.
Not to flex on you or anything, but I have the YouTube premium subscription, so I'll just like create a
Oh
playlist and then I
shit!
can just put it in
Oh,
my pocket and it'll play.
so I would do that, but I can't because I live in the middle of nowhere, so there's actually no data.
Oh, fair enough. I'm in a city, so my house has fiber, so different.
Yeah, but otherwise it would. I need a better. Do you? I guess a goal. Maybe I just have two this week.
If you think that, I mean, the biggest thing is going to be the needle moving aspect of it. So anything you think is going to
The
move the
most
needle,
needle
it
moving
doesn't.
aspect is
Quantity
honestly just
isn't. Yeah.
yeah, it's just the ads. I just need to keep improving, getting better at ads, learning more about ads, and launching new ads. So to be honest,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just going to stick with two new creatives, two new long forms. I guess emails. I've been slacking a bit there, so I'll just go with you, and I'll just say two emails as well. Kapow! Then we
Cha-ching.
haven't finished. Group goals. We
Yes, the
need
branding
to
for the pod.
get fresh branding and thumbnails.
I think I can get a fresh headshot today. I forgot my girlfriend has a camera.
Sick. To be honest, with the branding, we could probably just ask AI. Like, you will love this. I have a dashboard. I'll actually just show you now quickly. What can I? Actually, I'll send a screenshot to you. I asked ChatGPT. Well, actually, I didn't. I was on X, so I just asked Grok, and I just asked it to design me some dashboards for marketing, and then I just collared the like color schemes and the way they've done it, basically, and built my own dashboard based on it, and it looks so clean. Which also got
I'm
me
very
thinking
excited to see that.
we can probably just do the branding for this. Even just ask like ChatGPT or something, one of your clever AIs, to
Mm-hmm.
make like build something for us, like some fun, unique branding for like guys in their 20s talking about business. And I'm sure it'll pop something out. And then we could probably just pick our favorite one and use that as our color palette and just do that for our branding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is going to be creating that house that we want to invite people into. You know,
Yeah. And then deleting all the shorts is the other one.
deleting the
And
ones
then,
that don't have views,
yeah.
right? Because some of
And
them have
then
views.
picking our top, maybe our top 5 shorts out of all the ones
Mm-hmm.
so far, and then scheduling those basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we've done that, well, actually, we'll get that out the way, and then we can talk about pushing it to our brands, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
Legendary. That's a wrap.
Amazing. How do I?
Oh.
Yeah. 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 Yo, it's time to build leverage, stack up your advantage. Life and business, time to manage, never stay stranded. Start with the vision, mission, plan of attack. Keep your eyes on the prize, no looking back.